Kimberly from the Fat Quarter Shop, and today I'm going to show you how to make a self-binding receiving blanket. It's quick and easy. For your inside fabric, you need 3/4 yard, and for your outside fabric, you need 1 yard. Let's get started. So our first step is to cut, and our center square is going to be 24 inches. And I'm going to give you a couple of cutting tips because this really has to be accurate for this blanket to work. The first thing is on any of the sides, I'm just going to cut a straight line. And then I'm going to rotate. Now you're going to notice I'm not folding and cutting because I just think this is more accurate to cut straight lines. Now when I make the second cut, I'm going to line up the bottom of my ruler with the straight edge I just cut, and I'm going to cut again. Now here, we need to cut 24 inches. So I'm going to line this up on the left side of my mat and the bottom line of the mat. And then again, I'm going to use the bottom part of my ruler to cut. Just going to make sure this is perfectly 90 degrees. And again, on this last cut, I'm going to make sure this is 24 inches square. And again, I'm going to use the bottom of my ruler, making sure the top is also even, and I'm going to get a perfect square. I really prefer cutting this way because I like to get a perfect square and I don't want to fold because that might distort it. So the center square again is 24 inches square, and your outer fabric, which is the border and the backing, you're going to cut 34-inch square. And you're going to do that using the same techniques we just did. Now we're going to find the center of our fabrics. You're just going to fold it in half and put 2 pins, and I've already put my pins. Fold it again. And put 2 pins. You're also going to do that on your larger fabric. So you're going to find all your centers first. Then on the wrong side of your smaller fabric, we're going to make a mark 1/4 inch in. What I like to do is get a Creative Grids ruler, one of their square rulers, and they have little dots, and you just mark all 4 corners. And I've already marked these 2 corners. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pin 2 sides across from each other. You're going to place your fabric matching your pins. And you're going to place pins all the way to your 1/4 inch line on both sides. Okay, so you've got both of these pinned. We're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam, and we're going to stitch from this point to the other point on both sides using a 2.0 stitch length. And I forgot to mention, you want to line up the warp and weave of your fabric. So on this side, it's very taut and does not stretch. So we've put those sides together, and then the side that stretches a little bit more, you're going to put together on this side. That's going to help with shifting. Now on cotton fabric, to be honest, it really doesn't matter. But if you're using a minky or cuddle fabric, it is definitely going to matter. So that's a good tip for you. So let's go sew. Okay, I'm going to put my needle down into this mark that we made previously, and I'm going to put my foot down. I'm going to make a few stitches and then back stitch. And now I'm going to sew all the way to the next dot and backstitch. Okay, I'm right in that dot and I'm going to backstitch. You're going to repeat on the other side. So we've sewed our first two sides. You want to press toward your border. Just gently press it on both sides. And then we're going to sew these two sides together next. But on one of them, we need to leave a 5-inch opening. So I'm just going to make marks. That's how we can flip it out later. And believe me, I've made it several times where I forgot to flip it out. It's no big deal. You just unstitch it. So what you're going to do is you're going to match, again, your centers. And you're going to have a lot of bulk. It's going to be okay. Just have to kind of finagle it. Again, match your centers and pin all the way to the outside on both sides. And then what you're going to have is a little tail over here on both sides, and that's exactly what you want. And you just want to make sure when you're stitching that you're not going to get any of this bulk. So I kind of pin it out of the way, kind of pin this bulk kind of like there, and that way it'll keep it out of the way. And since you've pressed, it's going to give you a really nice, it's going to lay nice and flat there. And again, you're just going to pin both sides. We're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to start and stop where your previous stitch was. And that's very important that you land right on that spot so you won't have any gaps and you won't have any bulk. It'll just be nice and perfect. So lots of pinning. So let's go sew, and just don't forget to leave that opening for you to turn in and out, and when you're doing that, you are going to back stitch on those seams. So I've put my needle exactly in the spot where my previous stitch ended. Put my foot down, take a few steps, back stitch. Stitch all the way to the other end and back stitch in the same spot you started. So we've sewn all 4 sides, and again you want to press out toward your border, and when you do that, that's going to give this outer border a really nice press, so when we flip it open, it's already got its seam there. And then what we're going to do is we need to get this right in the center. And what I do is I take a ruler and I'm going to measure each side and just see if they come out the right measurement on all 4. And sometimes, honestly, this will come out really nice, and other times it just won't. So you just kind of have to, sometimes you'll have to play with it more than others. And this one actually came out nice, perfectly. So what I'm going to do is put a lot of pins in the center, because when we're sewing these outer sides, we don't want this to shift too much, or your quilt baby receiving blanket is going to like look crazy. So I'm just going to put a lot in the center, and this will just hold it in place. Okay, now I'm going to show you how you're going to miter each corner. Each corner you're going to do it exactly the same. So now what you're going to do is on each of your corners, open it up and make sure it gives you a nice miter and that none of your stitches are on top of another stitch. And that means it's going to come out really nice on the other side. Then you're going to take a 45-degree line on your ruler and put it on your stitch line that you made previously. So this is your stitch line that you've pressed. You're going to put it on there, and you're going to draw a line from your last, where your stitches are, all the way to the corner. And this should make a perfect miter right there. Then you're going to, what I like to do is pin this. This is like an extra OCD step, but this keeps your fabric exactly on your miter by pinning there. Then pull this and flip it. And I'm going to put a pin here so that it keeps this in place and doesn't move. And I'm just going to kind of put a pin here so this just stays out of your way so that nothing bunches up under your stitch. Put a few more pins. It's nice, flat, even. You're going to start stitching right where your stitches previously ended, and then you're going to stitch all the way to the end, and you're going to back stitch at the beginning and the end. Put your needle down where your previous stitches were, and you're always going to start there and go to the outside so you don't get any puckers. Put your foot down, and then when you're stitching, you're going to do a back stitch. Stitch all the way to the end, back stitch, remove your pins, and then you're just going to trim a 1/4 inch away. Repeat on all your corners. So we have all our 4 corners done. I've removed my pins, and I'm going to iron my corners before I flip it out. I'm going to press them open, and since we pressed the border toward the border, we're just going to finger press these and press out. That is going to make them pretty on the other side and not lumpy. Okay, so that's nice and flat. I'm going to pull this open and just pull everything through. Now what I'm going to do before I pull this out is, this is a mitered corner. I'm just going to poke my little pinky in there and push that out. That is going on all of these corners. That is going to help it to where you don't really have to use a tool if you don't want to. But I just poke my little finger in there. It kind of pushes the miter out so that when you pull it out, you don't have to do it from the other side. You can use a purple thing. A lot of people like to use that. I am a little bit aggressive with it and poke holes, so I tend to use my finger because I don't trust myself. But most people that I know use that. Just start pulling out. Okay. And look how pretty it is coming together. And you can see that my points are already forming because I did that, and if they're not, I just put my pinky in there and do it again. Now I'm going to press this flat, and your corners, you're going to see that your blanket is just going to go straight into that corner, and it's already going to line up. I'm going to use a little steam, get it nice and flat. And since we already pressed on the other side, you're just following that same pressing toward the border and open. And since we measured carefully, you're gonna have no puckers here, and you're gonna have a pretty little point here. Okay, now you have your opening, and since we pressed that earlier, it's just gonna lay nice and flat. And what you're gonna do is you're going to just stitch right on the inside and close this up. And then I'm gonna show you how I do my decorative stitch. But first, go ahead and close that up, and then we'll move on to decorative stitching. I love to have fun with decorative stitches, so I just played around with my Bernina and found one. I'm doing stitch 1353, which is like a buttonhole on each side, and then I adjusted my stitch length to be 4.6, and then I made my width 3.15. And that was just, you know, having fun with my decorative stitch. And I'm doing aqua on the top and the bottom for the thread. And I'm also using a edge foot. What that's going to do is just keep my stitches even right in the center. We hope you love this receiving blanket. It has a quick formula to it. Remember in the beginning when we cut our small square 24 inches and our large square 34 inches? You can start with any size in the center and just add 10 inches and you're gonna get the same look. So try it out and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.